food, painfully aware of the cliches and contradictions that we embodied, and trying to work out the point of it all. I'd longed for this companionship while I'd been away, and the rhythms of our London lives, the quirkiness of our homes and our clothes and our seasons, the cynicism and sarcasm of our humour. Now I was back in the midst of these traditions and drinking them in like warm tea. I was in love with a man I'd met not long before, Sam, who lived just a mile away from Miranda in Tottenham, a part of London he always described as the hood. This environment had shaped him into a person unlike any I had ever met before, and having returned to it from a northern university where he'd spent 3 years getting a law degree, he now clerked at a solicitor's firm during the day, saving up money before starting the vocational course to become a barrister. He spent each evening after work on the athletics track near White Hart Lane, where he trained as a sprinter, lumps of lactic acid layering themselves onto his thighs hour upon hour. Unlike any other 24-year-old I knew, Sam had his own car, a source of independence for which he spent years working, and he was always on the move late at night, plugging away at the personal development books he credited with sparing him the same fates as his friends. It never ceased to shock me how many of the people he grew up with were in jail or in and out of mental institutions or stuck in minimum wage jobs. And in his community, he seemed to know everyone. That night, Sam was visiting a school friend who lived on a nearby council estate further up Miranda's Road, a sprawl of decaying social housing at the top of the hill. Neither of us could have known that this was the last time Sam would visit. Just a few weeks later, his friend was dead, caught up in crossfire from a turf war. These weren't innocent times. His friend was already getting slowly dragged into the drug trade, the one industry that provided many local jobs. But for a few hours that evening, it was like the old days, before Sam had gone away to university and left his friends behind, just hanging out with his boys on the block, catching up. Since he was so close by, Sam offered to pick me up from Miranda's house and drive me home to Wimbledon, where I lived, around 17 miles across town. Just before midnight, he rang the doorbell. The scene had already played itself out in my mind. I was excited about introducing my friends to this man they had heard so much about. I pictured him coming in, joining our little circle, sharing some tofu cheesecake. That, however, is not how it went down. Miranda opened the door, and Sam said hello to her, cautiously, as he stepped through that front door and into the room with the big bay window, the cluttered piano. Once inside, he stopped dead, as if in shock, and stared. He shifted from foot to foot, mumbling hello, and gazed around in bewilderment, taking it all in. Sam, so confident, so uneasily fazed, was quiet and perplexed. In all his life, he told me later, he had never seen a scene like this. People talking so earnestly, almost conspiratorially, in low, hushed voices, even eating the way we were eating, an array of strange plant foods being passed around on little plates. 13 years later, we still talk about that day. You lot, sitting there with your herbal tea all round in a circle, nah, Sam shakes his head. That blew my mind, and I mean, I thought I'd seen it all. What was so strange about it, I ask. You don't understand, he shakes his head again. This area's hood, you know. People getting shot in the area, mandem on the hustle, and you lot was sitting there oblivious, all huddled around. In Wimbledon, yeah, fine, but in my area, and you still behaving the same way, I would never, in all these years growing up around here, have known that that scene could even have existed in this area. There was something else that bothered Sam at the time. He had his own preoccupations about my group of friends. He knew that we'd been to Oxford and that many of us were privately educated, some at elite boarding schools. Now we had degrees in the bag. We represented everything he and his friends had never had access to, a kind of uniform privilege that, as far as he was concerned, meant that success for us was guaranteed with as much certainty as failure for most of the people around him. Listen, in my brain, you lot went to Oxford, and you lot are supposed to be the creme de la creme. You're supposed to be blitzing this life. And there you were, sitting there so tentative, like, so unsure of yourselves. Trust me, if a man like me had the opportunities you had, there would be no stopping me. We'd be up in this country making some serious...